My name is Susan Jana, and I'm the chairman of the board of Cheetah Conservation Fund. I know you've had a long and awesome day. We're going to continue that a little bit longer. Not that long ago, I was sitting where you are sitting, attending Expo and listening to the amazing conservationists at Expo. And I went to a lot of the lectures, just like you did. And when I attended Laurie's lecture, I was just absolutely entranced and amazed by the kind of work that CCF does. Shortly after that, I hosted a fundraiser for CCF. Then I was asked to join the board of directors, and I was elected as chairman of the board earlier this year. You have an amazing chance to connect with conservationists and get involved and follow your passions, and that's what I did, and I hope all of you are doing the same thing. I've had the amazing privilege of working with Laurie closely for the last couple of years. Those of us who work closely with her all joke that she never sleeps. I know that for a fact. She has stayed with me. And that it takes about 10 of us to even try to keep up with her. I once asked her in a moment of absolute exhaustion, mine, not hers, "Laurie, how do you do it?" And her answer really struck me. She said, "I have to do it to save the cheetah." There is no person on the face of this earth who is more dedicated to ensuring that the cheetah wins its race against extinction. Would you please help me welcome Dr. Laurie Marker?
That was nice. Well, I sleep on planes. It's always good. Thank you all for being here. I'm the last talk of the evening, and so it was cheetahs or elephants, so you guys are the cat folk, and thank you. And, you know, we all do have to run fast. So cheetahs are the most amazing animal on the face of the earth, and I'm very partial to them, and I know that there's a number of the people here in the room who have been not only interns with us, worked at the Cheetah Conservation Fund, and those of you who are here love the cheetah too. So thank you. They are special, they need a lot of help, and I'll try to tell you about some of the work that we're doing to try to help cheetahs. Now, this was supposed to work. Do I point it your way, or do I? Oh, I'm pushing that, the green one. That didn't push. But I can tell you about cheetahs. Do you think it's working or not? I'm also good at saying next, but beyond that, there's a lot of next. Cheetahs are the fastest land animal. I mean, just look at that. Every part about the cheetah is built for speed. Small head, aerodynamic body, just their eyes that can see a couple miles away without binoculars. Those tear marks which run down from their eyes help them focus and see what they're looking at. And I think in conservation today, focus is really important. And so the cheetah actually has taught me a lot about what I'd say target, focus, work hard, and keep going. They're just lovely. However, their life is hard. A mother can have up to 6 cubs, 4 to 5 are average. In many areas where they're found, we have about a 90% infant mortality. The female's raising the cubs on her own. She's out hunting constantly. The cubs are staying. They start following their mom at about 6 weeks. Mother's got a small home range, goes into a larger home range, till at the time when they are leaving her at about 18 to 22 months of age, they have a home range that could be up to 1,000 square miles. So they've got one of the largest ranges of any animal on the face of the earth. And that's why we have so much to do to try to take care of them. They're an apex predator. They're at the top. They maintain the grasslands. They weed out the old and the sick and the weak and the young, and they keep all of our wildlife healthy. Aren't cheetahs great? Cheetah males live together their whole life. They're called a coalition, and so a female will actually cover multiple males' home ranges as she's out there teaching her cubs where to live. And the mate that she might have, and female cheetahs actually have mate choice. They will select the mate and hopefully a couple years later go back and rebreed. That's if he's still around. But that male might have the best range. That's why she goes there, where there's the best food and the best water to care for and raise her young as well. To give you an idea where cheetahs live, and This map is a very important map. The brown is where they used to live. The orange is where they're living today. There's less than 7,500 cheetahs found on the earth. Most of them are found outside of protected areas, and so throughout my talk, I'm going to refer to farmers, livestock farmers. Throughout the areas where cheetahs are found, they're living in some of the most arid landscapes in all of the world. I live in southern Africa, in Namibia, which is where our flag is, and between Namibia and Botswana, and I think Rebecca is here from Cheetah Conservation Botswana, we have 50% of the world's population, which still is not that many, which is maybe around 4,000 individuals. Most of the populations, there are 31, about 20 of them are less than 100 individuals. It's really scary out there dealing with the cheetah issues that we are dealing with. A little bit about me. I grew up on the back of a horse. I still ride my horse every single day. Peter was one of our interns. He rode with me every day for 6 months when he was there. Anybody who comes over can go riding. But how did I end up over in Africa? I grew up with dogs and goats. We still have a lot of dogs and goats. And many of you might have met our Anatolian Shepherd guarding dog who's here is going to come up in a few minutes longer. But I found myself in the early 70s at a wildlife park where I took care of the animals in the veterinary clinic. I raised over 200 species of animals. However, what caught my eye was the cheetah. I asked people, everyone around the world, tell me what you know about the cheetah. And people would write back to me and they'd say, when you find out something about the cheetah, let us know. They don't breed in captivity. We're losing them in the wild. And they don't live very long in captivity also. So from my early days in the 1970s, I helped develop kind of the global world, cheetah world, because nobody knew anything about them. And I said, well, when I find out, I'll let you know. And we did write a textbook just recently, and it just came out, which is anything you'd want to know about the cheetah, but you were afraid to ask. I took one of the cheetahs to Namibia, and that's how I ended up doing what I do today. I had no idea that I was going to be the one picked to go out there and try to figure out what it was going to take to save the cheetah. This is Kayam, and I had an opportunity of raising her whole life, 10 years, but when she was about a year old, my job was to take her to Namibia, Africa, which was a war-torn country at that point in time, trying to get its independence from South Africa, and my job was to find out how you teach a cheetah how to hunt. Because zoos were trying to breed animals, and we thought we could just take the animals and put them back out in the wild. Well, first you have to have a wild, and then there has to have a place where the animals can live. And what I found when I ended up in Namibia was that there was conflict everywhere. The farmers were killing cheetahs 800 and 900 a year. They thought that I was crazy. They were catching them in capture cages. Was it because they were actually catching their livestock? Or was it a perceived threat? And what we found over the years, it's more perceived than actual, but even with that, we as humans kill predators. And that goes back for thousands and thousands of years because we're afraid of predators. And so what the Namibian farmers said, if you see a cheetah, kill it. That goes along with leopards, lions, anything that is predator, wild dogs, jackals, and so I wanted to do something to stop that. So, long story short, I went from Oregon, the wildlife safari where I worked, to the Smithsonian's National Zoo, where my research continued there on cheetahs, and ended up at Namibia's independence, moving to Namibia and set up the Cheetah Conservation Fund. We're the largest cheetah organization in the world, and we are only a handful of us, and most of the people that work on cheetahs have all been kids of ours, and I'm very proud of our ongoing capacity building throughout all of Africa. We're an open-to-the-public research center and an education center. We're a sanctuary where we do have orphan cheetahs. We've got a veterinary clinic, a genetics laboratory, which I'll talk a little bit more about, but we're also on 100,000 acres of land. We are a reserve as well as a model farm. So my background did come with growing up with animals. And when you talk to a farmer and say, I love cheetahs, and then the farmer says, yeah, well, I love my livestock, I can say, well, I love my livestock too. I love my goats. I used to be a goat judge here in the United States. Not many people can say that. So we are a model farm with goats, sheep, cattle, And with that, we have an integrated system, a part of the Greater Waterberg landscape, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about. But at our center, we have livestock guarding dogs, we have a goat dairy now, and we also do a lot of habitat restoration. So Namibia is a special country. Namibia is about 2.5 times the size of California. It's very arid, like you all are. We have about 2.5 million people, but all that we have is wildlife on our land with our livestock. So the green are our national parks, which are about 19% of the country. They're big deserts alongside of the Atlantic Ocean. The brown are communal conservancies, which would be similar to what we would call here maybe Indian reservations. And at pre-apartheid times, our communities were split up and put into these different areas. And then there is the center of the country, which are the commercial farmlands, and that's primarily where cheetahs live. Those are all conservancies, the brown and the dots in the middle. Now, we are based over around the Waterberg Plateau Park. The Waterberg is a national park I'll talk more about. And these are our 100,000 acres of land. And I'm pointing out right now, all of this land actually came to us through multiple people's understanding that buy land, they're not making it anymore. Namibia is able to buy land, and we've just been given an opportunity to fill in our land here with 2 more pieces of land that we're trying to find funding for right now. That's about 30,000 acres that we're trying to purchase at this point. In Namibia, when we talk about conservancies, our animals are free range, and these are primarily the diet that the cheetah has. They love kudu, calves. Coalitions can hunt larger kudu. That's a kudu right there. Cheetahs eat hartebeest and oryx and the young of them, steenbok, duiker, warthog, rabbits or hare. And so they have a varied diet, but their prey range has to be at about the size that they can catch because they are small. In Namibia, though, our wildlife is primarily free range, not with these high fences. And that's something that we try to promote through our conservancy initiatives, that the communities manage the wildlife cooperatively and together within our conservancy lands. So what we try to do is to address these 3 points. Predation. So how often, oftentimes predation is because people aren't managing their livestock properly. So we look at livestock management. And then habitat destruction. As our populations continue to grow, our rangelands are becoming overgrazed by the livestock on the land, and very degraded land does not allow for more grass, for more wildlife. There's no wildlife, no cheetahs, and so all of this is circular. And then we're now addressing issues around the illegal wildlife trade of our young cubs, as well as parts of cheetahs that are being sold into these issues. We do a lot of education, and our motto is save the cheetah and change the world. And that's what I think that we're doing from within to without. We have dealt with over 550,000 school kids, and I didn't know what I was doing when I started. Well, I did, but I had no idea of the impact it made. That today, almost 30 years later, so many people have gone through our education programs. People who have been interns with us that are now the Minister of Environment and Tourism. Most of the ministry staff has interned at CCF. So the impact of education, I cannot even tell you how important it is. We have international students that are with us constantly. We have about 20,000 school kids that we go out and teach every year, as well as about 1,000 kids that come to us from Namibia and just stay at our center to learn more about the cheetah. This past year, we had a very interesting project, which we partnered up with the Colorado State University in a conference that's called Pathways. And Pathways Africa, it's the first time that this conference on human dimensions, on human-wildlife conflict, but the human dimensions of wildlife was held outside of America. And I love this project because Pathways and Colorado State, the training program before the conference was what I was interested in. We brought 45 people from throughout Africa to spend 3 days in training with many of the the best lecturers around human-wildlife conflict and the human dimensions. And the professors are all in there. And it was just so exciting. And then we had over 200 people that came to the conference in Namibia at Pathways. And we partnered with our colleagues from the Namibia Nature Foundation, the Large Carnivore Management Association, and then obviously our CCF. And this here is a picture of our interns from Namibia that actually put on the conference for all of the 200 people that came internationally. And it was a great, great, great opportunity. After the conference, we had about another week-long training with our colleagues from Kenya and Algeria, as well as from Somaliland. Somaliland is where we have a lot of illegal wildlife trafficking going. And I'm bringing this picture up right now. I'm going to tell you a little bit more. But these two guys came to it. They're the directors of wildlife of Somaliland. And this little cub that I'll tell you a little bit more about also, her name's light as a feather. About a month ago, I was in Somaliland and spent 2 weeks saving her life, and she had been confiscated as a tiny cub and almost didn't make it. There were 2 cubs, one didn't, and she did. But these guys actually put the people in jail. That we had gotten 8 cats that time in August, and it was great. But I just want to say the amount of training is so important, and when you can partner together, it's really, really great. Just to give you an idea of where our research area is, and again, remember, Namibia is 2.5 times the size of California. The black are where we've gone door to door and talked to the farmers. The red are where we've captured cheetahs, collared them, taken blood tissues, opportunistic sampling, and the majority of these animals have gotten back out in the wild. We've been able to put over 600 cheetahs back out into the wild. And these are not ones that are babies that have come to us. These are animals that were able to go back out in the wild after being collared. Matt is one of our master's students who did his master's on some of the rewilding work that we've done that I'll talk a little bit more about as well. We do and are a science-based organization, and from that, the work that we do is every animal, we want to know more about it. We weigh it, measure it, take blood samples, tissue samples for our genetics lab, to look at diseases, to look at everything that we can to understand more about the cheetah. We've worked on over 850 animals. We've got a huge database that goes into our liquid nitrogen tanks. We bank and freeze sperm on every wild male cheetah there is for the future. And so all of this is just very, very important for the work that we do. We not only work from Namibia, but we train people from throughout all of Africa to conduct this work too. Our research shows how cheetahs are living, and they've got home ranges that are, again, larger than any other of the carnivore species except that of the wild dogs, about 800 square miles. And they live in a very low density, and we get that information from our camera traps, where we find between 2 and 12 cheetahs per 500 square miles. So this is a lot of the baseline research that we're involved in. I don't know what I did. I think I did something bad. There we go. We do have a sanctuary, and some people think, oh, you're a cheetah group. No, all you have is cheetah babies at our place. Well, we don't. We do all this other work, but we end up having cheetah orphans that come to us. Today we have 33 at the center, and it seems like we put some out and we bring others in. And again, when we have these animals, 33 of them right now, each one of these cheetahs costs us about $5,000 just to take care of. And so if anyone wants to help sponsor one of our orphan cheetahs, you're welcome to. We're not allowed to breed cheetahs in captivity, but our cheetahs are part of our ongoing research. Again, looking at diseases, reproductive work, but also our reintroduction work as well. Kate, put your hand up over there, Kate. Kate was one of our interns and then cheetah keeper for about 3 years and worked actively with us. Then she went off and got her master's degree and is still very involved in conservation, but took care of a lot of these animals. I want to bring you into the horrible world of illegal wildlife trafficking. We know that there's a lot of parts going on in the southern parts of Africa where we've got about 4,000 animals. We deal with moody markets. The people are out there killing cheetahs and leopards, and you've got, feet and claws and teeth, but also capes of cheetahs that we don't really know where they're all coming from, but they can't be coming from just South Africa. Up in East Africa, where we have a population of about 1,600 individuals, this is where the pet trade is going. Cats are being caught from northern Kenya, Ethiopia, and Somalia and Somaliland, and they are crated. We get many of them, and then from there they end up over in the Middle East, where people think that they should be pets. We've been able to track down a lot of what the route looks like. The red is where we have gotten animals confiscated. The green is now where, through some censusing, we're trying to find out that there are cheetahs out in these areas. It's very, very dangerous. It's not the place that you can go out and just do the normal surveys that we will do. We are training now many people from the universities to try to get out there on the ground because, again, we can't go out there. We look to European, and it is not the safest place in the world. Our big issues are the fact that we can't transport animals once they're in captivity, if they get caught. We can't also transport the blood and tissues, so even trying to find out where they're coming from, who's related to who, has become a challenge. We actually do this by collecting scat or poop. This is our team right now that, together with the last confiscation, we were all together. Neju is the one who's taking care of the animals. Gunther is from GIZ, which is kind of like USAID. We are using his facilities and a lot of his staff to help do this. Patricia is our specialist in human-wildlife conflict. She's just been back in Russia to the last standing committee meeting for CITES, where, again, the cheetah illegal trafficking is very strongly being recognized, and she's been in the UK right now, where there's been a recent meeting this week on illegal wildlife trafficking. But these cats, we've needed to where are we going to put them? How are they going to be housed? And that's become a bit of a problem. But that is the team that we've been working with. These are the cats that we just were able to save in August, and they have names, so you can kind of get an idea of who they are. Again, this is light as a feather. And some of these cats, when they came in from these cages, they couldn't walk because they'd been in transit for such a long period of time. We are trying to find out a lot more about the population of cheetahs, and we do this through blood samples, tissue samples, through getting scat samples, and we've got a great genetics laboratory and a team spirit working together. We're working with our partners for many of the different range countries, doing a lot with the Kenya population to see how it's linking in again with a lot of this illegal wildlife trafficking. We use poop, black gold. Some of you have heard a little bit about the black gold and scat dogs. We do much of the same. We have, these are our two dogs, our two handlers. We're not only training dogs to find cheetah scat, but also to look at anti-poaching. And our dogs are active all the time. Right now, they're looking for a vehicle, just letting you know what some of our needs are to try to get out there and do a lot more of this detection work. As the dogs are tracking, the green is what their work looks like, the red is where the handler is. The dogs are covering about twice the size area of what that of the handlers are. This is Finn, and he's recently retired from some of the younger dogs and their training. And what we find is that if we do have a question, we bring the scat back to Finn, and Finn's always the one who's willing to answer the question on whether it's a cheetah or not. We are just recently going into Angola to look at scat samples with colleagues up there, and our team of dog people are heading back to Angola at the end of this month for another month-long project overlapping that with the camera traps to find out more about not only the cheetahs but other carnivores in this area. What we find with the scat is we can extract it, and we've got gene sequencers at our lab, and we can actually tell individual animals that are different. And you can see that this fingerprint is different than these three. And so that's what we do when we get the scat, and we can find out much more about how cheetahs are living, more about population structure, more about where maybe some of these animals are coming from northern Kenya or from Ethiopia, or maybe being trafficked even from Botswana or Namibia. Our work really requires large landscapes, and so when we talk about the work that we're doing, it really deals with big, vast areas. And our research has gone into conservation because research is good, but you really do need to have applied conservation, getting on the ground, working directly with the people. And our team of ecologists are very, very active. Mati has been a star here at WCN in many years. He's finishing his PhD. He was one of the young conservationists here, and WCN has helped support his work. Fabiano finished his PhD a few years ago. He's now at the University of Namibia and bringing us many of his students to continue off on the work that we're doing in a lot of the research that we're talking about. And then Aniki just joined us, and she's great. She joined us, and she lives in Otjiwarongo, which is our local town. She came in as a school child. She came to CCF, and she said, I think this is what I'm interested in. She went off, got her undergraduate, her master's degree, and now she's running all of our work with our education as well as our research there at CCF. So that's sort of the team that we work very actively with, and each one of them are just amazing. The landscape that we're working in closest right to CCF is, here's the Waterberg National Park. It looks like this. It's an upwelling where we've got some of the country's most endangered species. The black rhinos are up there. Our land goes to the top of the Waterberg, and we've got a very large footprint there. But we're working out here in the communities where we've got about 23,000 people that we're working very closely with, where we also have cheetahs and wild dogs. And you've heard that the wild dogs are also one of the most critically endangered. Well, we're also in the wild dog world these days as well. From our work that we're involved in, we've got camera traps out. We're working actively with the communities. We've got this grid through the Waterberg, this whole area. It's huge. We've spent the whole year gridding this, camera trapping it. We're doing the wet and the dry season, and from that, we're coming up with an idea of what the biodiversity is within the whole area. But it's also allowing us to do a lot of community work and asking the communities about what's out there. And so we get the pictures of some of these animals that are on the ground, and then through questionnaires, we're understanding how often they're seeing the predators, where they're seeing them. You can see that the jackal they see about every day. They hate jackals. And they see wild dogs hardly ever, but they kill lots and lots of wild dogs, even though they don't see them. They burn out dens and they poison them. So it's a real problem, which is why we've been involved there in the wild dogs. We do training, which is called Future Farmers of Africa, and we've done lots of great work. We're now working with this is can go backwards here, a new collar that we're working on. It's called an E-Shepherd collar. It emits a very high sound and a flashing light. You put 1 per 10 of your goats, and we're experimenting on this to find out how successful something like the e-collar can be. You can't have them where you've got livestock guarding dogs because the emission of this high-pitched noise keeps predators away. So we've got livestock guarding dogs in some areas, and we've got e-shepherd collars in other areas. In other areas, we've got lights on fences. And so it's a very interesting component. The Future Farmers of Africa, we've trained over 5,000 farmers in our training programs. This was a group from the University of Namibia that just came in with we partnered with a group from Oklahoma State University, which is one of the best goat vet universities than any place else in the world, believe it or not. And from our University of Namibia training course, they all came and participated in this training program with us. We breed dairy goats also, and we actually make goat milk cheese and ice cream. It's wonderful. Just with our livestock guarding dogs, many people have heard about them. We've bred and placed over 650. This year we will breed and place about 50 puppies on their own. And they grow up with the flock. They grow up from the time they're about 8 weeks old. We spay, we neuter them, and then we place them with farmers, and then work constantly with the farmers throughout. We see between 80 to 100% decline of livestock loss when we've got farmers working with the dogs. And we not only are saving cheetahs, but all the other predators. So as cheetah people, we love a healthy ecosystem, and we like all predators. We've started a One Health program. This is Robin, and she's one of our veterinarians. And we've worked with a variety of other vets, from Kathy Gervais, another veterinarian, great Monique from the Netherlands, who are out on the ground. Right now, we've got a matching grant to have a mobile clinic. So we're working out of the back of our truck. We need the truck a little bit bigger, a little bit more contained. There's Kathy. And that we can actually do rabies vaccines, distemper vaccines, and also spay and neuter. Because the area that we're working in is where all of the wild dogs are. And so these are where our main conflict zones are, and this is where we are focusing most of our energies. So 2 years ago, we ended up with our first puppies. The farmers had before burned them out, killed them, and not told anybody. And the ministry couldn't get any information. And by going in there, spending a lot of time with the people, all of a sudden, oh shoot, we ended up with 2 puppies. A few weeks later, we ended up with another 7 puppies. We blended them together. We just split them out, so we've got 2 release dog packs. Then this year in June, we ended up with another 9 puppies. Meredith, where are you? Put your hand up. Meredith was one of our interns who helped take care of those puppies. And they are now together with the bigger uncles, who is Zebra Legs and White Collar, that Kathy and I raised last year. They're great uncles, but it looks like we are probably going to be on the dog circuit for some time. We've just developed a 20-acre dog pen for them to go into. From there, they're going to go into another rewilding area, and we believe that we'll be able to actually restock wild dogs in Namibia, and our government is very eager to work with us because of the success that we've had with our rewilding programs with our cheetahs, which is different than the 600 and some 800 that we put back out into the wild. These are orphan cats that have come to us, not bottle-raised babies. We end up with cats that are 6 months old, 8 months old. They hate us. They're perfect candidates for rewilding, where they can go back out into the wild. And Eli's in the middle there. Eli also was an intern first. He came back as staff. He is now in charge of our rewilding program. And from that, we've got 8 cats that are ready to go back out into the wild. We use satellite collars, and we're trying to get more of those to put out some of these cats. We put one out a couple days ago of 8. We've got 3 more that are ready to go out in the next few days, and then we've got another 4 that are ready to go out probably in about another month. So this is how our rewilding works. You don't just let them out and say goodbye. We actually take them out, have to take care of them, make sure that they're hunting and feeding properly, and with that, the supplemental feeding is critical. We find that females, actually after about 2 weeks, are pretty much on their own. Males have a harder time and usually like to be a little bit supplementally fed for like a month or so longer. So we invest our time and energies more in the females in many senses than the males. But this year we are putting out 4 males along with the 4 females. So a little update on our biomass program. We do habitat restoration. Our country is full of thick thorn bushes. People have commented about what's going on with climate change. Climate change is a problem. We have desertification. Where the cheetah lives is arid lands everywhere. You end up with arid land, no grass, human populations, everybody having goats and sheep and cattle. You end up with an overgrazed land. It either becomes a desert or it becomes where you end up with a thickened thorn bush. What we've had is thickened thorn bush. So we've got an area the size about of California that is so thickly thorn bushed, it used to look like this about 35 years ago. It's now so thick you can hardly penetrate it. And if you've been to Africa and you know what these thorns are like, they're kind of miserable. So we developed a habitat restoration program. It's going well. We put about 40 people to work. We chip the bush that we've harvested, we chop it up, we make a fuel log, which is called bush block, and we're looking at this fuel log going eventually into biomass energy. So we're looking at a biomass gasifier that can actually produce electricity. It could be used in many of the small villages around Africa where most of the people, I think over 65% of the people in Africa have no electricity. So it's one of the visions that we have for the future. We've developed what's called the Biomass Technology Center. Our main campus is down over here, and we're now also involved in, we've got solar panels up, and we are all off the grid, but it's part of one of the work projects that we're involved in. And my partner, Bruce Brewer, and Bruce, put your hand up, he's also our general manager, is dealing with all of our biomass program. Community is very important as you've been out here and you look at all these lovely crafts that people from throughout the world are making for all of you. But this puts us all, what we do, I can tell you all day about cheetahs. And these ladies make these crafts, and if you can empower and give jobs to women, it's more important than men, because the women are actually very important, and if they have their own money, then they're probably not going to go out and have to get pregnant and have more kids and figure out how to take care of a whole bunch of problems around living in a developing world. So we support a lot of women's groups, and we work very actively with them, and we're trying to actually promote these kinds of crafts and our partners in other cheetah areas to try to get our crafts in many of the local zoo gift shops and museums here in the United States, because then it actually connects us back to the animals and the people who are living on the land with these animals. This is the book that we've just come out with. It is called Cheetahs, Their Biology and Conservation, and it's a 40-book chapter with over 160 authors. Rebecca was one of the co-authors here. Kate was a co-author. I don't know if there's other co-authors, but our team of cheetah people, we're very, very proud of this. Our co-editors, myself and Ann Schmidt-Kunzel, who's the head of our genetics laboratory and animal health, and then Lorraine Boast, who is a research associate with Cheetah Conservation Botswana, showing together how important we as a small group of cheetah people are working together, and we want everyone to know what we're doing everywhere to try to save the cheetah. It's a model for all the predator work, I think, everywhere, and we're very proud of it. Come visit us, please. You're welcome. Namibia is a wonderful country. You can see some of our orphan cheetahs. They're not pets. You can't touch them, but they're out in big compounds. We have one of the most beautiful views in the world, the vista of the Waterberg Plateau behind us. We have just set up a new lodge, which is called Cheetah View, down here, and we've got our Babson house, which is 3 bedrooms and 5. The lodge is 5 rooms, and so we do welcome people to come over. But you can also come over and be a volunteer, a young volunteer or an older volunteer. Peter's right here. Peter came and, as I said 6 months with us. Wilson was there too. Put your hand up. How many of our people here have been volunteers with us? If I actually look around, if you can see, we've got a great family of people who have been a part of us. So we do welcome you to come and work with us. And this is our professional team. We've got about 40 people who are our ecologists and our veterinarians and geneticists and educators, all working together to try to save the cheetah not only in Namibia, but throughout the range. And we work together everywhere the cheetah is, and we will not let the cheetah go without a very big fight. So. I really want to thank all of you, because we couldn't do this without your support. And back in the day, a long time ago, CCF, I think, was one of the beginnings of WCN. And together, we are one of the largest partners, but we are making a difference. And again, I want to thank all of you for spending the entire day with all of our great colleagues out on the front line, helping save all of the different species. And it takes a village to do everything that we do. Thank you very, very, very much.
Thank you, Laurie, and thank you to all of you for staying here. This is such a unique opportunity to have Laurie here, and I know we've gone a little bit over time, but I don't want to rob you or rob Laurie from the opportunity to ask a few questions. So if you don't mind staying for a few more minutes, we'll take 1 or 2 questions from the audience. There's one right here.
Yes. Here. One here.
What are your requirements to be a volunteer?
Well, believe it or not, we put everyone to work. So we look at what you are and what you want to do, and we can put you in. But a lot of our work really revolves around animal care, going out and picking up camera trap photos, looking at those photos, helping with everything that we do. So, I mean, I never can tell you exactly what happens every day, but I know we wake up and we take care of our animals. And from that, again, there's just loads and loads of stuff that goes on. I would encourage you to actually talk with a few of our volunteers and go on our website, cheetah.org, and actually learn about what volunteers can do. And it's not that if you're just a student, we take older volunteers. Walt, I don't know how many times you've been over with us, 5 times. And so we like people of all ages, and boys and girls, and we all work hard together.
Thank you. I see a question in the back.
I want to thank you so much for your work. I noticed on the map of the cheetahs range that there's still somewhat of a substantial population of them in Iran. Do you know anything about the conservation efforts there? And regardless of our ugly administration, are there any efforts to try to work with the Iranian government to help preserve their cheetah populations?
Well, we know a lot about what's going on there. There's only about 50 cheetahs there, and we've been working together with our Iranian colleagues for about 15 years. However, the population keeps going down. We've done a lot of training with our many of the biologists at CCF. I've been to Iran a couple times and helped them. It's easier for them to come down to Namibia and be trained than it is for a bunch of Americans to go there. Right now, I'm probably not going to go there right away again, but we've been asked to put on another training program in Namibia, again in the very short, not too long from now. So we're hoping their problems are actually the prey base is so low, and many of the populations in northern Africa, the prey is more endangered than the cheetahs are. Well, the cheetahs are almost gone. And so those are the big issues that we're dealing with is lack of prey, but then within the reserves, all the goats are in there. And so the cheetah has nothing to eat. And in many areas, they're eating hare, a rabbit, and that's not a large enough diet for them to actually be able to feed not only themselves, but their young.
Okay. One last question, Derry.
So this was wonderful, Laurie. If we can find our iPhones with a very small chip, why is such a large radio collar required?
Well, I wish I knew that. They've gotten smaller, believe it or not, but a lot of it has to do with the battery that's on them. And the batteries, the big size really is those batteries in there. And the batteries are what are taking up so much. So in some areas, maybe you've got solar panels, but the solar panels don't work on the collars. And I know that technology will get better, and we keep asking it to get better. We try to get the smallest, and the cheetah can only have the smallest size. And yet with that, it's more clunky than I'd like. So we are very selective in who we do collar. We've collared animals, for about 20 years. However, the collars that we're putting on now are primarily for our animals that are rewilded, and we need to know where they are pretty much every second of the day.
So I want to thank Laurie and all her colleagues for the pioneer work that you've been doing with cheetahs, for the inspiration you've given to all the conservationists. And I want to thank all of you for staying so long. You can follow up with Laurie directly through her website, through our website, support all these conservationists, and have a great evening. Thank you.